Hello, everybody, and sorry not to be here with you today, but it was not possible for me this week. Thanks very much to Cesira Pasquarella for organizing this session, and especially this focus on operating theater. So I have no conflict of interest in this presentation. So this is a view from my hospital one century ago. So operating theaters have changed a little bit since that time. But at this time, they were performing selfie. It's not possible no more today. The environment has clearly changed, and fortunately for the patients and the operating room teams. But we need to define the standards and what the requirements to prevent surgical site infections. So the legislations in France is very low around that old things, and the more recent one is a decree from 1993. And in this decree, you can see that in an operating room, you should minimize all the risk, including the infectious one, and that the operating room should be something physically demarcated, something with a sign on the door with operating room. So it's quite low as a requirement. To overwhelm that, so scientific societies have released guidelines. It's the case of French Society for Hospital Hygiene with guidelines on air quality in operating rooms, first released in 2004 and updated in 2015. For us, the first important thing is to analyze the risk before building an operating theater. What is the surgery you are performing? What are the risks? And how you can avoid them? And air treatment is a piece of that. The second thing is when you have troubles and problems, you should analyze them and perform root cause analysis. It's quite rare in this field. I advise you to read this nice publication from our Dutch colleague, Elizabeth Simmons, around reducing door movement in operating room. We have invited her at her Congress 2 years ago, and it was very interesting. I just gave you a small vision of this presentation, but she has performed root cause analysis around this problem to understand why and to take solution in front of the why. And at the end, 3 causes and 3 solutions. First one, people say that we don't know the number of the operating room, so we open the door to talk to them. So make more visible the telephone number on the door. Second things, there were no rule about who is allowed to go out and go in, and they put the orthopedic surgeon in charge of defining that. And the third one, there was no real identified signal that the room was used at the time. So they made a signal making on air, like on the radio. And at the end, they moved from 21 doors opening per hour to 3 in a sustainable way. So you have to focus on the problem and to deal with them, just not build something with a high quality standard. It's useless. In France, we are using the Belgian idea of progressive asepsis. So you have to protect your patient more and more as you're entering closer and closer to the patients. And at the end, under the surgical site, you need to protect it, maybe with the hair treatment, which is a way to protect the surgical site. We have a French standard updated in 2013 that has been made to help people designing operating rooms in France, and it's a very interesting, a very used one in our country. You have also the idea in the standards of a perimeter around the patient, which is the one to secure first to protect it. So we are using the ISO classifications and put risk class in front of it, and also other added criteria, including especially the kinetic of particle removal. And as you can see in this standard for prosthetic orthopedia and burn surgery, you have the highest requirement with an ISO 5 standard. And for the other surgery, it's an ISO 7, and ISO 8 is only for the corridor. So in 2015, we we're in the mood of telling that a prosthetic surgery should be undergone under an unidirectional flow, maybe the most protective environment. But we underscore that antibiotic prophylaxis was far much more efficient than the air treatment. You should have that in mind. The one is not replacing the other, but the efficiency is not the same. The other things is for us that the minimum requirement is ISO 7, and in France now we have nearly no more operating room which is not ISO 7 as a quality of air during surgery, of at least when the room is empty. As in France, we are defining the quality of air with an empty room. The other thing is that you should have a certain level of control available in the operating room. One interesting is to follow the quality of air with particulate ambient air control that provides you the ISO classification of the room, and you have an immediate result. So that's very useful in case of trouble. You can decide there directly. The microbiological sampling is performing from time to time, but it's less interesting as you have 3 days at least to have your results. So in the standard, you see all these things with the ISO classification, the pressure differential, which is really important in the design, the temperature, and so on. And in fact, in front of that, the kind of air treatment you should put in your room to have the quality of air, so unidirectional or non-unidirectional. The pressure waterfall is really important to maintain if you want to keep the quality and the protection of the patients. And the standard, you should have, for us, at least 15 plus or less 5 Pascal. But what is more important, it's follow that and to have the way to control the quality of the pressure and temperature. And you need to monitor it. And if you have bad results, you have to do things. Sometimes we have a manometer in the room, we have a pressure that is under 10, and nobody is doing nothing, so it's useless. So you need to decide something. Maybe you have to stop the operations after the closure, but not to take in charge the next patients. So if you don't take it, you have also risk, because if you have to delay a surgery, maybe it's something puzzling for the patients, but you have to balance between increasing the infectious risk and the other risk. But you have to make a decision. That's the most important thing. So from a very long time, we used this unidirectional airflow, providing either ISO 5 or ISO 7. And recently, you know that there are some controversy around the benefit of laminar airflow in orthopedic surgery, and especially the German team of Petra Gassmeyer published several papers, and the last one was a meta-analysis under the umbrella of the WHO organization. And at the end, they said that laminar airflow was not of added value for prosthetic surgery in orthopedia. So we decided to reanalyze the literature and to revise our guidelines. And in 2018, so in last March, we released a statement on this topic, focused, which modify a little bit our guidelines, which only 3 recommendations are modified. First thing, we say that in prosthetic surgery, an unidirectional airflow can decrease aerobial contamination, but we don't know if after that there's a decrease of infection rates. So if you're focused on infection rates, we can't say that you will have a decrease of infection rate while using these devices. And also, you need to evaluate and to have appropriate behaviors. It's really important. If your surgeon finds your system too noisy and is decreasing the airspeed not to have this noise, it's fully useless to have invested in that. So you have to compare that and to make people engaged in following the good practices. The second thing is that in orthopedic surgery is the same thing. If you have unidirectional flow, you can reduce aerobic contamination. In some way, you could expect to reduce infection, but it's not certain. It has been proven for antibiotic prophylaxis and other things, but no more for laminar airflow. The third things and important things that surgical site infection prevention is a world strategy with many compounds. Antibiotic prophylaxis is something really important, but you have a set of measures to follow. Some are really proven, some are less proven. So implement first the best practices that are more efficient and discuss about the other things. So in conclusion, around air theater quality, we have a low regulation, strong standard. Things have been really improved in the past, and we have no more ISO 8 room as it was in the past. We have only ISO 7 quality for our operating rooms, but we still have many poor behaviors, and these poor behaviors are impairing technical investments. We spoke about lowering the speed of the airflow or opening the door several times during a surgery. So we thought that it was time to reconsider a strategy. We need, when you are defining and designing and using an operating room, to have benefit risk cost effectiveness in mind. It's really important. It's expensive to have the highest quality of air treatment at investment and during the maintenance also. You should not put all your strategy under the quality of air. Most of the time, the surgeons are just expecting everything from the air quality. It's not really the case, and you have to explain that to them. And if you invest in that, you need to ensure that the behaviors are in adequation with your investment. If people are not following any of the good practices, it's fully useless. So I think air quality will be always something important. You still have technology to provide that, but we should also think behaviors. So thank you very much for your attention and enjoy your congress in Parma.